Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you everything that I made this winter. So these are all of the pieces that I created from January to March of 2022. This winter, I was able to sew up 5 beautiful pieces for my wardrobe, and I'm so happy with most of them. I also got the chance to practice some new techniques, learn some new things, and work with fabrics that I've never worked with before, which was really fun. And I discovered a few patterns that I absolutely love and that I think are going to be my new tried and trues. So before we dive into this video, I wanted to give an honorable mention to the blouse that I'm wearing right now. This is the Stitch Witch Patterns Tudor blouse, and I sewed it up in this white double cotton gauze, and I used a white muslin for the lining. I sewed this up at the end of the summer last year, but during the fall, I got really busy with my move and changing jobs, and a lot of things were going on, so I don't think I ever shouted out this blouse on YouTube, so I just wanted to shout this one out. This is such a great pattern. I absolutely love it, and I'm actually planning on making more of these blouses for spring and summer upcoming. Second thing before we dive in, I did just want to also give an honorable mention to my Megan Nielsen Patterns Quilted Hovia coat. I have put so much time into this coat over the winter, and I'm so close to being done. I just need to stitch on the sleeves and then the coat will be completely done. Yeah, but I thought that was worth mentioning because I did spend a lot of my sewing time this winter working on this coat. I was hoping to have it finished for this video, but unfortunately not. I want to make sure I'm taking my time and not rushing it, and I'm just trying to take my time setting in the sleeves so that they're done well, and I'm happy with it. But the coat's going really well, and I can't wait to update you guys about the coat when I'm all done with it. So even though I made all of these pieces during the winter, I definitely made pieces that were suitable for a range of temperatures. So in January, I found myself sewing some really pretty summer dresses. I think I just needed a little bit of escapism sewing to bring my mood up because it was super cold here. So I think what I will do is I will go through these pieces in order of most cold weather appropriate to most warm weather appropriate. So the first piece that I sewed this winter was actually a sweater, and I've never made myself a sweater before. I don't really know why, and I've actually only worked with knit fabrics a few times. I've worked with knit fabrics in the past sewing up some baby clothes, and I think I just used like a cotton jersey, so that was really easy to work with. So this was one of my first times sewing with knits, and I learned a lot. So the sweater I made is this beautiful teal boiled wool mock neck style sweater. You can see the fabric I chose is this lovely teal blue boiled wool fabric. I got it from Mood Fabrics, and if I'm remembering correctly, Mood Fabrics boiled wool fabrics are actually a wool viscose blend, which I really like because this fabric has the warmth of wool. It keeps me super warm, and it feels really high quality, but I noticed that it's not itchy, and I think that's thanks to the viscose. And I think it's just a little bit less delicate and fussy with that little bit of viscose in it. I've washed up the fabric. It does shrink a lot, so make sure you pre-shrink your wool before you make this sweater. But I've washed up this fabric and it washes super well. I have no issues, just never put this type of fabric in the dryer. But yeah, I was super happy with the fabric I chose. The pattern I used was this Named Clothing Talvikki sweater pattern, and what drew me to this pattern are the beautiful darts on both the front and back bodice. They're in a really unique shape, and it's what helps to form this cool mock neckline, and it's a really interesting statement part of the pattern. I sewed up a size medium because I wanted to make sure that it would have that oversized look, and it definitely does. If I make this again, I may consider sewing it up in a size small because there's a lot of room under the arms, but I think that's also just the cut of the sweater. Now, I originally wasn't sure if the boiled wool was going to have enough stretch to suit this sweater well, but on the Named Clothing website, they were featuring photos from people who've made up this sweater, and I saw some photos of other sewists who had made this up in a boiled wool. I thought it looked so lovely, and it seemed to work for them, so luckily enough it worked for me. There is enough stretch in this fabric that I can get the mock neck over my head, which is great. One thing that I will say is at the neckline is finished using a facing, and I think it looks fine, but it's pretty bulky, especially where you've done these darts, because then you're folding over like 4 layers of fabric on itself. So it does get pretty thick. I've seen some other people who used a lighter weight fabric for the facing. I think if I was going to make this again in boiled wool, I would consider using a lighter fabric for the facing, making sure to interface it with a stretch knit because it just got really bulky. Either that or I would need to be a little bit creative about trimming down my seams and grading my seams. I tried my best to grade down my seams, but perhaps I could have done a bit of a better job. But all in all, this sweater's so cute. I wore it out so many times when I made it because it was just so cold here, and this sweater is super warm and I got a lot of compliments on it, and I also think the color is just lovely, so really happy with this one. Now I think it's worth mentioning that I don't have a serger, I just sew on my home sewing machine. So how I created something like this was utilizing stretch stitches that my home sewing machine comes with. So I sewed up all the seams with a triple stitch, also called a straight stretch stitch. And I find that the triple stitch is really strong. And I finished the seams using a mock overlock stitch that my home sewing machine comes with, so it does have that neat, tidy look from the inside, and both of those seams allow for a lot of stretch. So I think this turned out really well, and it's nice to know that you don't have to have a serger to sew really nice knit garments. You can definitely do it with most standard home sewing machines. So next up on the spectrum from cold to warm weather, I made myself these tailored style pants. They have a double pleat in the front, they also have pockets, and the back features an elastic waistband, which makes them really comfortable. Now, unfortunately, I will say out of all my projects that I made this winter, I am the most disappointed in these pants. So I think where I went wrong was matching the fabric I chose to the pattern I chose. So I chose to create them in this really lovely brushed cotton in this plaid design. And I do love the design of this plaid. I think it's a really nice neutral color. You could wear fall, winter, and transition this kind of print into the spring as well. I did order this fabric online, and where I went wrong is I do think this is more of a lightweight quilting style cotton. I don't think it necessarily has enough weight to it to drape properly as pants. Part of it is, unfortunately, I think my brain, when I see plaid on a pair of pants, I just think pajamas. So they are giving me slight pajama vibes. Luckily, they're tailored, so I think that helps to reduce the pajama vibes. But the other downside to this fabric is it's 100% cotton, so it's really wrinkly, which is normally fine, but I think these pants, they really need that tailored look. So if I want to wear them out, I have to very carefully press the pleats in the front as well as the back and crease the leg to make sure that they come out nicely. And that's just more work than I usually put into wearing a pair of pants. I do think they look okay, especially when you pair them with a more dressy top or a tight-fitting top, something that's more tailored. And then I get that kind of look I was going for. But I was hoping that these pants would be something that I could wear to the office regularly, and I think they're just too high maintenance and a little bit too pajama-y for me to be able to do that. The pattern I used was Seamwork Channing pants, and I don't have any issues with the pattern. I did sew it at least a couple sizes smaller after reading some of the reviews as well as looking at the finished garment measurements, and it fits me perfectly. So if you're going to sew up the Seamwork Channing pants, I would recommend looking at the finished garment measurements to help you pick your size, because I feel like it's designed to be a little bit more oversized, which perhaps could be a really cool look, but for what I was going for, something a bit more tailored, I decided just to sew it 2 sizes down. One more silly mistake I made on these pants is on the front waistband. I actually accidentally sewed it the wrong way, so this is the wrong side of the fabric paired with the right side of the fabric, and truthfully you can't really tell from a distance, but this wrong side of the fabric doesn't have that nice brush texture, so it is definitely a little bit noticeable, and that was just a complete mistake by me. But on the bright side, this was my first time learning how to sew a curved waistband, and I love the fit of a curved waistband. I think it fits me really nicely, so that was a win. And I also practiced sewing a mock fly, which I'd never done before. Again, super easy, and I found the Seamwork instructions really helpful. So great learning experience. Unfortunately, don't know how wearable these will be. I can always transition them to pajama pants if I need to. So next up might be my favorite project of the winter, because I just was so happy with how these turned out. I sewed myself a pair of workout leggings, and the pattern I used for these are the Seamwork Tino leggings. And this pattern, in my opinion, is brilliant. It looks exactly like ready-to-wear leggings that you would buy from Lululemon. So the pattern does have a front leg piece, but what I really love is that it features this side leg paneling here. And you can see that it has the side leg panel with the built-in pocket, as well as the back piece. And then it has this lovely high waistband. And I just think, again, this pattern looks exactly like ready-to-wear leggings. So with this pattern, you just have the power to create your own beautiful leggings that look like you bought them from a super expensive athletic wear brand. Other things that I love about this pattern are the waistband. I found it just fit me perfectly. I found the measurements were spot on. The waistband does have a very small piece of 1/4 inch elastic here at the top that you stitch on, but I find it doesn't dig in. I don't really like when the elastic on the top of a pair of leggings digs in. This doesn't dig in at all. And the waistband is just shaped really beautifully, really comfortably, and again, it has that ready-to-wear look. The fabric I used was the matte activewear knit from Blackbird Fabrics. This is the color Guava, and I love this color. I think it's so great. And I also love this fabric. I was really happy that Blackbird Fabrics had this on their website because I'd been wanting to get into activewear for a while, but I didn't know how to pick an appropriate fabric, and I felt like the description on the website really helped me choose this. This fabric is 4-way stretch, so it stretches widthwise and lengthwise. I believe it stretches at least 80% in both directions, so there's a lot of stretch, which again I think is what you want, and it's what gives these leggings that same comfortable feeling as ready-to-wear leggings. And the other thing that I loved about this fabric is on the Blackbird Fabrics website, they'd advertised it specifically as matte, which I really like. I think that shinier fabric, it doesn't have to be a bad thing at all, but I do think matte fabrics do again have that more classic, expensive activewear look. And the other thing is they had specifically said that it doesn't become sheer when you stretch it, which again is obviously important if you're working out, you're squatting, you're moving your body, you're doing things, and the last thing you need is for your leggings to be see-through while you're doing that. So, you know, I tested it out, and everything they claimed about this fabric is true. In my opinion, it's not see-through when it's stretched, which is great. So since this was my first time sewing up activewear, I didn't really expect these to be perfect. In fact, I kind of wanted these to be like a wearable muslin, and I really learned a lot making these. They're definitely wearable and they look great from a distance. Closer up, you can notice a few imperfections, but I'll tell you about how I sewed these on my home sewing machine. So I did use some woolly nylon thread in the bobbin of my sewing machine, and then I used a regular polyester Gutermann sew-all thread for the top thread. To sew the seams, I used the faux overlock stitch on my sewing machine, sewing right sides together, and then from the top, I top stitched the seams down using a triple stitch or a straight stretch stitch. And I used a double needle to do this. And I think the double needle looks really nice. However, I was dealing with some tunneling between the 2 rows of stitching of my double needle, which I know is a common problem. I played around with tension and thread types and everything for a really long time, and I couldn't resolve that problem. I think when I make these next time, because yes, I will be making so many pairs of these leggings, I think I will sew the pieces right sides together with the triple stitch to start off. And then I think I'm actually going to top stitch from the top using one of my decorative stretch stitches that my sewing machine has. Because if you look at ready-to-wear activewear, they use a cover stitch machine, and what's typically visible from the right side of the leggings is that intricate cover stitch machine stitch, which has multiple threads. So I think top stitching or stitching from the right side using one of those faux serger type stitches or faux cover stitch look stitch would be a good way to do it, and I do think it might be even stronger doing it that way. So that's how I'm going to do it next time. I've already been playing around on scraps of fabric for the next pair of leggings that I make, because I will be making so many pairs of these. I made a size 4. The next ones I make, I'm going to grade from a 4 at the waist to a 6 through the hips and legs. The hips and legs are fine, but I think it would just be a little bit more comfortable if I had a little bit more room, especially through the legs. I think that would just be a little bit more comfortable. So I'm going to do that, and I think I will lengthen them by a couple inches as well. So huge win on these ones. When I wear them, I just feel so great. They make me excited about working out and being active, and I just love how they turned out. So I will be making tons of these leggings in the future. So the next piece that I made is this lovely blouse. I made this from a pattern by Papercut Patterns. It is their sequence wrap blouse and dress. I made this into a blouse, and the fabric I used is a viscose crepey fabric from Atelier Brunette, and it has one of their signature designs on it. I really love all of Atelier Brunette's pattern designs, so it was a really special splurge for me to pick up this fabric because it is a little bit on the expensive side. But when I saw this fabric, I just immediately thought that it would look so pretty as a flowy blouse. That's why I decided to sew it up. For me, I'd say this pattern, it was both a hit and a miss. So on the Papercut Patterns website, they do show this blouse being worn multiple ways. So the kind of classic way is as a wrap blouse. It ties on one side, and then on the inside you're supposed to have a button to button up the other side of the bodice to the waist seam. So that's one way to wear it. You can also wear it back to front. So the back bodice piece is in the front with the high neck, and then you can tie it loosely in the back. And then the final way that you can also wear this is tied like a wraparound blouse, again, where I think the back bodice piece is in the front, and then you wrap it around and tie it tight in the back so it kind of cinches in your waist. So that was the major selling point for me on this pattern. I thought it would be really cool to be able to wear this blouse 3 ways, and maybe it's just my body shape or the size that I chose, but I just don't think this blouse looks quite right on me. So if I could go back and do this again, I might choose a different pattern entirely. I might just choose a simple wrap blouse pattern rather than one that claims to be worn 3 ways, because I just think rather than looking amazing 3 ways, this blouse just looks mediocre. So unfortunately for me with this blouse, I think it just looks mediocre all 3 ways, and I think it may have been smarter for me to just pick one view so that it could look amazing 1 way instead of mediocre 3 ways, which it kind of does in my opinion right now. So on their size chart, I found I was pretty much exactly between a size 3 and 4 based on my body measurement. So I went with the 3 because on the model this blouse looks very loose and oversized, so I figured maybe it would be better to size down rather than size up. Perhaps my issue was that I should have just gone with the size up instead. On this dress, you're supposed to be able to fasten one of the front bodice pieces against the other side at the waist seam along the side seam, and just found that I couldn't get the bodice to wrap around in that way. It would lay really awkwardly across my front. It just didn't work. So I ended up adding an extension on the inside that had the button on it for the bodice piece to button onto. I'll put a clip on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Rather than the front of the bodice wrapping around and attaching to a button that's directly at the side seam along the waist, instead I've made this extension that comes off the side seam at the waist. It's about 2 or 3 inches long, and I have my button on the end of that little extension piece of fabric. The only way I think this looks really good is wrapped in the front. I think the other 2 views with the bodice back to front, there's something about the way the bodice lays that just looks a little awkward because there's no darts in there, and I think if you were someone with a bigger bust, this issue would just be even more pronounced for you because there's no sort of darts or shaping in the front, so it just doesn't lay that nicely. I also find there's something a little bit off about the sleeve cap as well. And yeah, I found just tying it loosely in the back, because one of the ties originates from the waist and the other tie originates from the front of the bodice. It just looks a little asymmetric. There's that little bit of the bodice that's kind of flopping around, and so I just wasn't absolutely thrilled with the fit of this. I don't know that I'd sew it again, and it's a little disappointing because the Papercut Patterns sewing pattern is quite expensive. It's about 30 Canadian dollars, so that's definitely a more expensive pattern. So I'm a little disappointed, but I would love to hear from you guys what you thought of this pattern, if you've made it before, if you have any ideas of alterations I could make to make this pattern work. I would love to hear about them in the comments below. All right, 2 more things for me to tell you about. Now, you guys have seen both of these last projects in videos before, so I won't spend too long talking about them, but these are the most warm weather appropriate for sure. So I recently made this lovely yellow wrap dress, and I actually did a whole video, a vlog style video about the process of making this dress. The pattern I used for this This was the McCall's M8036 sewing pattern. I made view A here, and I didn't make any major alterations for it. I did just widen the armhole a little bit. And I sewed this one size down from what my body measurements would suggest, because I always find that McCall's patterns come up pretty large on me, and with a wrap dress, I think it looks really nice when the bodice fits well. So that was kind of my rationale there. I sewed this dress up in a polyester cotton jacquard blend in that lovely yellow color. And I think the dress came out really well. I do think that the very puffy sleeves combined with the ruffly skirt just ended up being a lot, which is fine, but I won't be able to wear this as casually as I maybe had hoped. I think this definitely screams like special occasion dress, which is fine. I had a lot of fun making it. It was more work than I thought with all of the ruffles and all of the pleats that there are. There's pleats in the bodice, there's pleats in the sleeves, so a little bit more complicated than it looks, I would say. Not necessarily hard, but just time consuming. But yeah, I was super happy with this one. If you want more details on this dress, do check out my whole video I made about it. I will pop the link up here, not sure which side, but I'll pop the link to that video up now so you can go check that out if you want. And last but not least, I made this lovely dress. This is the Friday Pattern Company's Wilder Gown dress pattern, and I used this really lovely block printed cotton that I got from a seller on Etsy based in India. And I think I made this dress like right after New Year's. I think I made it on New Year's Day or something. So clearly I just had some spring fever, but I really love this dress. It's just easy to wear. Like, it's simple, it's lightweight. It was super easy to sew because I used the nice stable cotton. There's nothing too tricky. There's no curved seams or anything. It's just like a really simple sew. And because of that, I think it came out really professional looking. I made a few alterations to the dress. I basically just shortened the tiers of the dress because I was out of fabric, so that's the only reason why I did that. But I do like the length it came out. If I'm not mistaken, it hits me right around the knees or maybe a little bit lower than that. So it's a really fun, playful length. And the cotton is super lightweight, so I can just see loving this dress on a hot summer's day. It's loose, it's breathable, it's got that relaxed vibe to it. So really loving this one. And I also just adore the cotton fabric that I used. I love this fabric so much, I'm thinking of reordering it soon so that I can make another piece with the fabric, because I just think it's beautiful. It's affordable fabric, but I really love the print on it. So if you're interested in seeing how I made this one, I will pop the link up again and you can go and check that video out as well. This was just my little roundup of everything that I made this winter, and I'm going to be filming my spring sewing plans video soon, so if you're interested in seeing what I want to make for spring, stick around to see that. But let me know in the comments down below which piece was your favorite. I feel like I really pushed myself this winter to make a wider variety of pieces. You know, I had a pair of pants, a sweater, a pair of leggings, and then 2 more springy dresses, so a wide variety. Let me know what your favorite was, and also let me know down below what you made this winter. What was your favorite piece? What were you enjoying sewing? I would love to check out your creations as well. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. I post a lot of sewing related content, including sew with me, sewing plans, sewing roundups, all of that kind of thing. So if you like sewing, you are definitely in the right place. All right, take care guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.